now I'm going to be reviewing how to do the thoracic HVLA, sometimes called the Kirksville crunch. Really, I think the classic Kirksville crunch is for more sagittal plane dysfunction. A lot of times I will start just by treating the sagittal plane, just because flexion extension in the thoracic spine is the biggest motion that we're going to have, and very often if you treat that, most other dysfunction just kind of melts itself away. And so when we do this, a lot of times I'll treat the sagittal plane first, and if there's still remnant stuff, then I'll do more of a specific segmental dysfunction. So if I just want to treat the sagittal plane, so I'm just kind of coming right over the midline. When you're doing the standard Kirksville crunch, where you have a segmental dysfunction, rotate left, side out right, or something like that, you learn to kind of put your thenar eminence kind of right over that transverse process. Instead, rather than having my hand flattened out like this with that bulbous kind of thenar eminence pushing against, I'm going to kind of put my hand in this position like this right here, and I'm going to have the spinous processes kind of resting in this groove right over here, so I'm not putting too much pressure on the back, but at the same time I'm creating a nice rigid lever that the spine is going to be able to kind of extend itself over, because very often it's a hyperkyphosis, hyperflexion that we have that's kind of going on as far as our dysfunction that we have. So I'm going to get them set up, and I was a wrestler, so I use a lot of wrestling principles. So go ahead and let me see right over here. Let me see your other hand. Okay, so I always do the opposite side over. Go ahead and hug yourself on each side. We want to make sure the hugging is important to make sure that when we do this, the force doesn't get dissipated out to the side. So if he is loose, so don't hug your side over here. So then when I do my thrust, the force can kind of, doesn't go directly down. Some of it gets kind of spread out. And so if he's hugging himself over here, okay, and if I keep this rigid, then it ensures that the vector is going to be going there, so I don't have to use as much force to be able to get it to kind of release itself. In wrestling, we use a lot of elbows, so I'm going to be grabbing that cephalad elbow right over here with my cephalad arm, and I'm going to be pulling down and over. And when I pull over, it kind of opens up the back right over here, so I can kind of get to it. I can feel myself around the spinous processes right over here. I'm going to feel for a little tardy area on him right here, okay? I'm getting my hand again in that kind of position right around that area there. Once I have it there, I'm going to slowly roll him back over, and then I'm going to rotate my hand internally and tuck this in my epigastric area. Okay, so right here, and it's already kind of popping on you, just as I kind of got it set up over here. Now, one big principle when we're trying to pin somebody in wrestling, we're taught not to look down, but look up, and that takes our center of mass and transfers it more here, so that's putting that vector right down over here, and that makes a big difference to tighten this up a lot better. So I'm going to kind of tighten it over here, tuck it, get it right over here. I just got another segment to go. Lift your head up for me right here. Okay, so I can flex them up a little bit higher, right above here. Okay, then breath in and out. Okay, and I'm just going to do my thrust down, just dropping down there. Now, I see some people that do the repetitive, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Every time you do that, you already have him very tight right over here, so you're going to have a boa constrictor kind of effect on them. And so if you have them repeatedly breathe, it's going to become harder for them to get that breath in every single time, and so reflexively, their body's going to tighten up a lot more. So actually, only have them just, sometimes I don't even have them breathe in and breathe out. If I know that the breath is out, I just go ahead and thrust if I feel it's loose. Now, can you do muscle energy from this kind of area here? There is a way that you can kind of do muscle energy if you need to. So I got him set up over here. Okay. I got him right up over here. If he feels kind of tight, like he's not relaxing, I can say, okay, you know what, go ahead, and I'm going to try to bring your head back towards the table. So bring your head back, and that's enough that he's engaging those paraspinals underneath my cauda at hand here, and relax. And that can take him a little bit further, and then that helps relax him and relaxes those surrounding paraspinal muscles, so that it can help facilitate me being able to kind of get the thrust or just the articulation if I need to. And so that's just doing sagittal plane Kirksville crunch. Okay, so I had previously shown the sagittal plane for the Kirksville crunch, so now I'm going to show it if it's segmental dysfunction. So let's show it for a neutral dysfunction of the thoracic spine. So neutral would be side bend one way, rotated the other way. We're always going to stand on the side opposite rotation, regardless of whether it's neutral or non-neutral. Okay, so if I'm standing on his left, that means he is rotated to the right. If it's neutral, it means that side bent left, rotated right is the name of our dysfunction. Okay, so go ahead and let me get your arms in place over here. So again, opposite side over, hugging on each side right over here. Again, I pull down, pull over. I'm gonna find his spine. I'm gonna find the specific segment that I want to kind of get. So I'm right over here. I'm gonna get myself, my thenar eminence, right over that transverse process of that segment right there. And then I'm gonna rotate my hand over here. Again, tuck this into my epigastric area right here. Now, if it's neutral, lift your head up for me. So it was side bent left, rotated right. So I need to side bend him to the right until I feel that it's tightened up right over here. Then I can have him take a breath in, out, okay, and do my thrust. And I got just that one little segment just to be able to articulate back in. So that was for a neutral dysfunction. Now we'll see if he has a non-neutral dysfunction, okay? But I'm just gonna stay on the same side just for ease of teaching. So let's say that he has a rotated right, side bend right segment. And so I'm gonna come up to that cervical thoracic junction because that's a little higher yield area for finding these guys. Okay, let me feel for anything tardy, okay, right around T3. Okay, so I feel something that feels actually pretty locked. It's probably non-neutral. I'm gonna get set up in a very similar fashion. Okay, now I'm in the cervical thoracic junction, so what I'm also gonna have him do is bend your legs up on the table, which helps flatten out the upper thoracics. And then notably, when I'm probably C3 or above, I like to have them lift the buttock up too, but I'm not gonna do that quite yet. Lift the head up forward here for me. So it's non-neutral, so I need to side bend him towards, okay? So that's gonna side bend him to the left, because it was rotated right, side bend right. So I have it rotated to the left, side bend to the left. Lift your butt up for me. Breath in, out. Okay, and then that little thrust down on there. Okay, and so that's what we would do for a non-neutral dysfunction. Okay, so that is our Kirksville crunch for neutral and non-neutral.